Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Bringing Efficiency to Land Administration via Online Digital Plan Submission webinar. My name is Leanna Chan, and I'm honored to be your host for today's session. We're thrilled to truly have a global audience with us today from across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, as well as the Americas and APAC, being Asia Pacific. Wherever you're joining from, thank you so much for being here today. This is an important and timely conversation about how land agencies, governments, and survey professionals are using digital plan submission tools to improve land records workflows. Today's webinar is going to be presented by Martin Newby Consulting, also known as MNC, as well as Esri, two leaders in land administration modernization. First, let me introduce you to MNC. MNC has over 25 years of experience in helping clients across Canada, the US, and the Caribbean islands, streamlining land records, cadastral systems, as well as parcel data. They are an Esri Gold partner and Canada's only certified parcel management specialty provider. And of course, you know Esri. Esri is the global leader in geographical information systems, supporting over 350,000 organizations in over 130 countries globally. Their ArcGIS technology is the backbone of many land administrative worldwide systems. Together, MNC and Esri are bringing a unique perspective on modern land administration that blends practical field experience with leading-edge digital tools. A few housekeeping items for today's webinar. This webinar is being recorded. All registrants will receive a full replay shortly after the session, and questions are welcome. Please submit your questions at any time at the Q&A chat on the bottom right-hand corner. After you submit them, we'll be answering them at the end of the session during our live Q&A. And if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We will follow up with you through email. So just a quick overview about the webinar that we're going to be having today. Survey plans are central to land administration, but the validation and integration processes are often slow, manual, and prone to error that leads to costly backlogs. This session will explore how online digital plan submission tools significantly improve speed, quality, and accuracy, saving our land teams time and money while increasing trust in the system. As you know, survey plans are the foundation to land administration, but traditional process methods are slow and manual and painful. Today's session, we will show how digital plan submission tools eliminate these bottlenecks and help land teams deliver faster, more accurate results. We will also explore how Alberta's Survey Plan Online Checker transformed their processes and what it means for other jurisdictions looking to modernize as an example. I'd like to introduce our guest speakers today. Jill Urban-Carr is a Senior Business Development Manager from the Land Administrative Group at Esri. She is a global leader in land tenure systems. She has worked in over 40 countries, helping governments design sustainable, transparent, and effective digital cadastral solutions. Joining Jill is Matt Fisher, our Director of Business Development at MNC, which is a firm that has over 25 years of digital land mapping and survey modernization experience. MNC has very successfully deployed the digital plan submission deployments across Canada and internationally. So let's dive in. Matt, over to you.
Thank you so much, Leanna. Everyone, Matt Fisher here. So nice to see you. I'm very excited to be telling you the story about our experience, our expertise when it comes to this area called digital plan submission technology here. MNC really is a leader in the cadastral and parcel mapping, providing state-of-the-art geospatial solutions, of course, always with a focus on precision and innovation. You can see we offer a lot of services to all of our clients, but of course, for today's webinar, we'll be focusing on digital plan submission tools. So just a little bit more about MNC as an organization. So when we take a look at our valued partnerships and certifications that our organization has, you see that we have pretty much everything that a partner or a client organization would need from us, including, of course, highlight the Esri Gold Partner Network, ArcGIS Marketplace Provider, parcel management specialty. We're checking all the boxes when it comes to deployments as well, things like AWS and Azure, as well as FME for translations, and the list goes on. I also wanted to kind of highlight a bit of our background technologies and capabilities. We're covering all the bases when it comes to these software development lifecycle, geospatial platforms. We're Esri first, but we've got experience working in the others as well. When it comes to modern web application, again, we have the basis covered, as again, we do have with deployment capabilities. And with that in mind, I'd like to pass it over to Jill Urban-Carr.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Leanna. So good to be part of this conversation today and excited to be sharing it with everyone that's joined. So first, just a little bit about Esri. I suspect everyone knows who we are, but in case not, as Leanna said, we are the global market leader in geographic information system software, location intelligence, and mapping. Since 1969, we've been supporting customers with geographic science and geospatial analytics, what we call at Esri the science of where. To solve our most complex problems, we really first need to understand them in the crucial context of location. Hidden patterns, trends, and relationships emerge when you visualize and analyze data on a map. Business and government leaders around the world use our technology to understand and address important challenges such as climate change, supply chain resilience, public health, land rights, and socioeconomic challenges. In short, our customers' work is the inspiration for everything we do. So, what is GIS? I think everybody thinks about it as the computer mapping system, but the official definition of GIS is that it's a technology that's used to create, manage, analyze, and map all types of data. GIS connects data to a map, integrating location data, the where are things, and all of the descriptive information that can go with that. So what are things like where they are? And what does this do? It provides a foundation for mapping and analysis that's used in science and almost every industry that you can think of. GIS helps users understand patterns, relationships, and geographic context. The benefits include improved communication, efficiency, management, and decision-making. The greatest challenges we face are inseparable from their geography, and with GIS technology, we can unravel these complex issues and discover where to take action. So let's take a deeper look at one of the sectors that leverages GIS technology, not only for mapping, but also transaction management, stakeholder engagement, and integrated decision-making, specifically the business of land administration. So what makes up a land administration system? It's a system of record. The various land departments are the single source of truth for property rights for their jurisdiction. So, for example, the Cadastral is the single source of truth for physical boundaries of land. The State Land Management Office is the single source of truth for managing state-owned land. The tax roll is the single source of truth for property valuations and assessments. And the list goes on. It is where the business of land transactions are managed and land rights information is securely stored. It is also the system of insight. This is the source of revenue projections, financial impact analysis, valuation modeling, and the monitoring of key performance indicators. All of the use, if you will, of that system of record to look scientifically, if you will, at how the state of the business is progressing. It is the system of engagement. The provision of clear, transparent, and accurate property information to the public, to investors, and the financial sector and the real estate markets. It's the point where we are able to bring a public-facing view of everything we do within the government. So, in actuality, a land administration system is actually a system of systems. That is, it brings together all of the necessary activities and functions of the field and the office to deliver customer service to the citizens and revenues to the government. So what is an ideal land administration system of systems look like? What does that mean? What that does is it really is bringing together different user roles, authoritative data, the appropriate tools, and the external stakeholders via an integrated distributed environment. This in turn is provided to and drives engagement with other government departments and agencies and the public. And ultimately what it's doing is delivering an integrated and shared view of that single source of truth. So today, we're going to take a detailed look at one particular component of the land administration environment, specifically how to bring efficiency, reliability, and standardization to the survey plan checking process. So with that, I'd like to hand it back over to our Esri business partner, MNC, Matthew, for a presentation on their survey plan checker solution.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jill. Wonderful. So let's get into it. What are digital plan submission tools? Essentially, they're the tools and software platforms and systems that are used to electronically submit, review, and approve digital plans and documents. Today, we're going to be, of course, very specific to survey plan submissions, but this technology can really work for any number of additional plan types and data. You can see from this visualization here, it's a very simple flow, high-level flow, about how the data flows through the systems. Starting with the surveyor submitting the plan by logging into an online web portal, and that portal will then do the validation, the automated check of that submitted plan. If it's approved and it gets that green light, then it moves on for package delivery. And typically we see there's individuals that are receiving data for plan registration and data integration. And then once we actually see that data integration happening, either like the land record system and then also the parcel fabric, it is then available for distribution for any number of data consumers, both internal to the organization or even external. So we've been working this space for over 15 years, developing various digital plan submission tools for jurisdictions at many scales, great and small, in the United States, in the Caribbean, in Canada, all based upon the Esri framework. And as you see on screen, we have a few screenshots of some of these systems, and we'll be taking a look at a demo of one of those ones before too long. Now, every digital plan submission tool set can be a little bit different depending on client needs. Sometimes they elect to option some of these key service areas or components. Sometimes they elect to use them all. The scope of our demo we'll be looking at today will be specific to the first three. The first one being the specification. That's the what's being checked. Now, MNC has developed a one-size-fits-all default specification, but many times organizations prefer to use their own or even just to modify that default. There's also a web app component that I mentioned. It's the design and implementation of an online submission portal for plan submissions. Some of the surveyors put in their files, self-check them, self-validate them. The next piece is a validation. That's the great piece of the automation, where it actually checks the submitted plan against that specification. And we'll take a look at those last two in just a few minutes. All right, without further ado, let's get to the demo of Survey Plan Online Checker, or SPOC for short. I'd like to introduce Steve Reed, our Director of GIS, to walk us through the demo. Thanks, Steve.
The first thing I do as a surveyor is to open the SPOC website to sign in. Keep in mind that only registered land surveyors can access SPOC to validate their survey plans. For the purposes of demonstration, I have an account which I'll sign into now. And you'll see this takes us to the Surveyor and Files page. On the Surveyor and Files page, we can get started preparing a survey plan for submission. I'll draw your attention to the panel on the left. It describes the steps to go through in SPOC to validate and prepare the submission package, which we'll go ahead and get started on. At the top, we can see there's an option to add additional email. This field allows SPOC correspondence related to this plan to be emailed to a secondary email address. There are a couple of reasons why users may want to do this. For instance, if I'm a land surveyor, I may want my team to receive a copy of the submission package. Or a draftsperson might prepare the package on behalf of the land surveyor, and in this case, the draftsperson could enter their email as the secondary address. Since the surveyor is the one with the SPOC account, their email is the primary address, and they will receive all SPOC correspondence automatically. Below this field, you can see we have the option to either drag and drop or browse for the CAD and image files which make up the survey plan for submission. I'll search for those files on my system and drag and drop them into the boxes. Once I drag the CAD file in, you can see that these new fields have become visible. The type field has automatically populated, indicating that this is an AutoCAD file, and I'll go ahead and select the file version from the version drop-down menu. Next, I'll drag and drop the image file, which can be a TIFF or plot image file that has been derived from the CAD file. Once approved, the plan image becomes the official plan of record in Alberta. As you can see, the name field has been automatically populated, which matches the CAD file name above. A warning message would appear if these names did not match. Now I'll select Next. And that takes us to the Survey Details page, where we can use the surround data from the image file to extract the metadata required for the Survey Details page. So here's our plan, and here's our metadata information shown next to the Survey Details page. Adding metadata information to the survey details can be a manual or automated process, depending on our client's preferences. In SPOC, this process is manual. To complete the survey details form, I use my plan as a reference point for the metadata information I need. For example, I can look up the survey date from the plan image where it states the date of survey is August 5th, 2010, and enter that in the field. Using the date picker, I can select the year, month, and day. From the title block, I can also select the survey type, the municipal type, and the plan location. I can also fill in any optional comments related to the survey plan in the comments box. Legal locations refer to Alberta Township System locations, or ATS locations for short, that are affected by the survey plan. In this case, the plan affects one quarter section, which can be specified by selecting the Add Edit button. And filling in the quarter section information, which I'll go ahead and do now. However, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll enter an incorrect legal location to show how potential input errors, such as this, are detected in SPOC. This information will be changed again in a later step. Other metadata information must be filled in by the surveyors, including datum, survey method, georeference to, projection, central meridian, and other important information prior to initiating the validation process. Here we can see the survey summary page where we can review the information entered. If any errors are detected, users can select Previous to make corrections as necessary. Note that this information, also known as the plan's metadata, is included in the package submitted to Alberta Land Titles. Once the review is finished, we can select Next to move on to the validation step, where the digital survey plan will go through a series of quality assurance checks, and which may take a few minutes to run. There are three essential quality assurance checks that will run. First, a structure check provides the user with acknowledgement that the submitted CAD file meets the required layer and element structure. Second, the CAD file is processed through a georeference check to ensure the CAD file is georeferenced accurately and is consistent with the legal land description, projection, and datum specified in the plan's metadata. And third, a dimension check whereby line lengths are compared to their associated annotated dimension text. Once those checks finish running, we can select each test to view the test results. MNC has developed a default specification that can work in any jurisdiction, which includes content checks, georeferencing checks, layers and structure checks, topology and closure checks, and duplicate checks. This application can also be configured to your specific requirements. As you can see, the sample file I used included an error and my plan failed the validation process. The box above is red and details about the error are visible in this drop-down area. The same thing applies when we select the georeference test, and in this case, we can see that SPOC has detected an error because of the incorrect legal location information we entered earlier. So let's go ahead and fix that now. So while these checks are running again, I'll explain a bit about the dimension test. Once the checks are finished, we'll see a table in the drop-down area of the dimension test. This table shows the results of the annotated text in the CAD file compared to the actual line lengths. The table also includes the XY coordinate values of associated lines and text. Users can use this table to isolate any possible discrepancies in their CAD file. The purpose of the dimension check is to bring attention to the variances and to highlight possible blunders before the plan is submitted to land titles. Note that SPOC will not reject any plans due to dimension variances or errors. When we select on the dimension test, we can see what that table looks like with the annotated line lengths compared to the actual line lengths and the XY coordinate locations of the features in the CAD file. We also have the option for SPOC to send me an email with these validation results by clicking this box, which automatically triggers an email to be sent. Once I receive the email, I can go ahead and open it to view its contents. As you can see, a CSV file is also attached, which contains the same information as displayed interactively in the table for the dimension check. Once the plan has passed both the structure and georeference checks, and once the surveyor is satisfied with the variances displayed in the dimension check output, the user can select Next at the bottom of the page to proceed to the Confirm Plan Location page. Once I select Next, this takes us to the final step in SPOC, where the CAD file is overlaid against the cadastral fabric for Alberta. This gives the surveyor the opportunity to check that surrounding features have been considered prior to submitting the plan for registration. The map viewer includes various tools that allow users to pan, zoom in, zoom out, and zoom to the plan extent. In addition, users can see line work from the whole survey plan, line work associated with the submission layer only, or users can search for an ATS location. Once I've verified that the plan is positioned in the map correctly, I can select Yes, Submit, where I'll be taken to the final page confirming that the plan package will be emailed to me shortly. Selecting the button also triggers the email to be sent, which we can see here. There are several methods available for package delivery, such as an email link, direct download, or direct delivery to the land admin agency. We can see that there's a link to download the package, so I'll use that. From here, I can save the submission package to a location of my choosing. Then I can close this window. And back in SPOC, I can select OK, back to home to be taken back to the Surveyor and Files page. From here, I have the option to start preparing another submission package or simply sign out. The SPOC application can be used unlimitedly to interactively check files until a successful package is created. The final submission package is in the form of an encrypted zip package, which only Land Titles Office staff can open. However, surveyors can drag and drop additional files into the zip file. For instance, in the case of a multi-phase condo plan, we can preview the zip file to see if the final package contains 3 items. This package can be configured to meet the needs of your organization, ensuring your team only receives the files and data you need. In the SPOC submission package, we have the digital CAD file, the survey plan image, which will be the official plan of record once approved, and an XML file which contains the metadata that was input into the survey details page. This zip file can then be submitted to land titles outside of the SPOC application by the land surveyor. This concludes our demonstration of SPOC. Thank you very much for your time.
That was great. I look forward to all the questions that our audience and participants may have when we get to the Q&A section of our session here today. Now, really, this is a story here all too much about teams spending countless hours reviewing and validating this data, these survey plans that come in. Sometimes it's just once, sometimes it's many times. It doesn't have to be that way anymore. Organizations, whether they're looking for their assessment departments or appraisal, what have you, they're looking for a good ROI. They're looking for things to be efficient and streamlined and related to all aspects of the digital plan submissions. And that's why we have all those bases covered with those core components. Common challenges that we have seen in the marketplace can include backlog. How do these teams keep pace with the massive survey plans that are coming in? Then keep pace, you can accomplish greater things. Another challenge is the minimal disturbance to surveyors. It's more about enticing surveyors to participate in digital plan submission tools and to use them by explaining the value that these tools can provide. Manual data verification. Anytime the data is being checked manually, there can still be a risk of errors in the data. And that can then be sort of a domino effect as it cascades from there. There's a lack of standardization. Nothing has been defined. That's really why MNC has developed that default spec that's a one-size-fits-all for organizations. And as we know, that can be configured or customized to meet additional needs. Specification compliance, sometimes it can be regulatory needs, very specific things the government needs to see done. Can accommodate that as well. Data consistency and quality. We want to make sure the data is consistent so it can be integrated as quickly and efficiently as possible. And of course, high quality. Interoperability with existing systems. Sure, you get the data checked, it's quick, it gets integrated, but how is this going to be made available to other systems, both within the government organization and potentially outside, additional partners and what have you? Challenges of timelines and efficiency. Surveyors are waiting for those approvals, right? Sometimes there's a timer going on that. Training and resources. How do we train the teams on both sides of the data? The surveyors, what information do they have? How do they understand how to use the tools? On the other side, the teams that are the parcel fabric techs or the GIS techs that are integrating the data and receiving the data and making it work. And the last but not least, of course, is no specification. That can happen, and again, that is why we do have that default spec. Now, when it comes to the types of checks we offer through our digital plan submission tools, these green ones are our default specifications. So these are the checks you'll get out of the box. Content checks, georeferencing checks, layers and structures, topology, and even duplication checks here. There's additional ones that some clients elect to include as well. So just angle, bearing, and also dimension checks. And of course, there's the other custom checks when that happens. Now, this is just a graph that I wanted to share with participants today. And as you can see on the screen, the green bars are those plans month to month over the year of 2024 that have been processed. So these are surveyors that have submitted plans repeatedly. And then the blue bar, which you can see is significantly smaller, is what was actually submitted to the LTO, right? So there's a big difference here in what is being repeatedly checked, repeatedly validated versus what is actually submitted. So it really helps proof up the value that this technology provides. The ROI is pretty easy to calculate. You just take the number of plans that your organization is getting per year times the number of hours it takes to validate each plan. It's maybe somewhere in the 4-hour range, maybe less, maybe more, times hourly salary. And that's the cost of the problem, right? These tools really help. Now let's move on to these last two service areas here, the integration component and distribution. So when it comes to integration here, this is about leveraging ArcGIS Workflow Manager to help teams process submissions into their data sets like the ArcGIS Parcel Fabric. This is a wonderful tool. We'll take a little bit of a deeper dive into that in just a few moments here. And also for distribution, configuring your tools to distribute your data to data consumers and users, right? All these internal departments, external departments, the public, etc. We'll take a look at that as well. So the question may be, how can digital plan submission tools help those organizations with ArcGIS Parcel Fabric? Well, it ensures your organization has enhanced data accuracy. You get improved efficiency, of course, standardization and compliance, satisfying those regulatory requirements, quality assurance and risk reduction, because it's the machines doing the work, not people, less errors, and then also facilitated feedback. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the integration component. We always love to use ArcGIS Workflow Manager. It's a wonderful tool. This screenshot on screen is actually a screenshot of an actual deployment of Workflow Manager. Now, anytime there's data coming into an organization, that data is being reviewed and validated and processed. It goes across multiple desks. It goes across multiple departments. ArcGIS Workflow Manager is that great tool to set the rails and make sure that everyone's doing what they need to do in sequence. It could be spatial edits. It could be making a phone call. Any number of processes can be integrated in sequence for multiple departments. When it comes to distribution options, there's a couple that we offer as an organization to our clients. The first one being the data store. This is a world-class data distribution platform. There's a large screen capture of it here. It supports multiple data types or formats like Cadastral, LiDAR, imagery, the list goes on. I suggest you go and check it out. There's quite a rich number of data sets available through that system. The tools are very easy to use, very user-friendly. The data can be provisioned out, open, so free, or even monetized data. enabling industry and other consumers to purchase that data. Also, it supports multi-format projection data. So that's the data storage and distribution option. But also ArcGIS, of course, can be configured to distribute that data by publishing hosted feature layers, providing web maps out for various purposes to meet those needs for the public, etc. And this can be done and accomplished with ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. So the benefits of digital plan submission tools are many. At the top, we have keeping up with demand, ensuring that these teams within these government organizations can keep up with all the plans that are coming in because of all the automations, because we're seeing a shift towards the automated tools and towards the surveyors. It's also about enticing surveyors to make sure that they understand why the change is happening and the value it provides. And a quick go-to can be quicker approvals, which is great. Improved accuracy. These plans are authoritative, they're complete, they're concise. Increased efficiency, of course, a lot faster on both sides of the data. Enhanced compliance, making sure that all of the requirements, whether regulated or not, are being met. Reducing errors, because it's an automated system that is doing the validation work. There's less risk of errors from manual processes. Of course, better data quality. Again, concise, complete, authoritative data. Faster turnaround time, right? That's going to be hitting the bottom line there. And streamlined workflows. It's the whole idea of seeing this data going across multiple desks, multiple departments, setting those rails, and having proper sequence being executed from there. And lastly, cost savings. The amount of time, the amount of money is being spent on these manual validation processes. No longer. We're seeing a shift towards automated tools. There's a couple of testimonials I just want to share from both sides of the data. At the top, we have a surveyor, a fellow named Dan. I use SPOC pretty much weekly, sometimes daily, and really like it. It makes my job a lot easier since I can find out if there are any issues prior to submitting to land titles. The process is pretty simple, and it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes to fill in the blanks, upload, and submit. Right. Now, this is the organization, land titles, the LTO in Alberta, that receives the data. I was impressed with the map feature that confirms the plan is in the right place and oriented correctly. Alberta Land Titles finds that the SPOC system saves both time, effort, and levels of accuracy related to processing of survey plans for registration. We have a lot of testimonials like this, but I just want to share those two. That essentially is it for our segment on digital plan submission tools. I wanted to now circle back and take a look at some of the questions that have been coming in during our presentation. And we'll answer those, I guess, collectively as a group here.
Thank you so much, Matt and Jill. That was a great webinar, very insightful. There's been a number of questions that have come in during your presentation. So let me move over to the Q&A section now, and I will read out the questions, and please answer as appropriate at your convenience. So the first question is it possible to configure digital plan submission validation rules to align with your specific jurisdictional requirements?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. Again, we have that default spec that covers, most of the basis for any jurisdiction, really. But of course, we know it can be, each of those are configurable and also customizable. We can develop them to meet specific needs. We have seen instances where some jurisdictions have government regulatory requirements that need to be satisfied, and we can definitely accommodate that. I have not yet seen a limit or a cap on the types of checks and validations that we can provide. So short answer, yes.
Thanks, Matt. Let me just jump in as well, because I think it is important to know that your jurisdiction, the nuances of your legal and regulatory environment can be accommodated by the SPOC. But I would also say that it's an opportunity to actually do a little reflection on what are your regulations and your requirements, and see if there's an opportunity to perhaps streamline those and modernize as part of the SPOC implementation, and maybe eliminating some of what would have been a traditional manual process, and really leveraging and leaning into the digital plan checking opportunities.
Great. Thank you for the thorough answer. Next question we have is, how does ArcGIS Workflow Manager fit into the overall digital plan submission process?
Yeah, that is a great question. It is an amazing tool. It works in many capacities, both inside digital plan submission tools and outside. But really, it's all about thinking about how that data comes in across multiple desks, multiple departments, maybe multiple destinations, and being able to set those rails. It's like a living process diagram where it puts everything in sequence. It's a wonderful tool here. So, yeah, I would just say that is the kind of the key role it plays in that. It helps with the workflows. This can be a huge benefit organizations when they have new hires, they have people retiring. You think about training and ongoing training budget, no longer ArcGIS Workflow Manager solves that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'll just add a quick enhancement, if you will, to what you said as well. It's I think really all about bringing standardization to the operational side of the office and making sure that it doesn't matter who is assisting a customer, the process is going to be exactly the same. And that brings confidence to the actual activity or the transaction that's taking place. Is that repeatability? It's almost auditability in the approach that's taken and is leveraged by the government.
Wow, great answers. Thank you so much. Next question, how do you ensure that surveyors and external users are trained to use the digital plan submission system?
Well, that's great. So we saw SPOC. We've done other systems as well for digital plan submission tools, and they typically have self-help content included with them, where it shows the surveyors, the end users, how to go through the process each and every step. So that content's available. So your organization, government organizations don't need to be involved in that. We provide that for them. You also saw from the demo how easy it was to use. It's very step-based, right? So it kind of helps the surveyor navigate through that. Things are clearly labeled. I've also found even that when it comes to kind of deeper down in the whole digital plan tool set processes there of like data integrations, a lot of times, more often than not, these organizations, these parcel tech or GIS techs that are going to be integrating the data, they're already reading up and checking out ArcGIS tools on YouTube and Esri's wonderful, robust training materials, just to kind of get a sense of how things are going to be changing for them, which is pretty exciting. Jill?
Yeah, I just think, we always talk about training and how critical that is, but this, when you're rolling out a new business process improvement tool like this, it's also a great way to engage with your stakeholders and get them excited about what's coming and what's happening and how that's going to be a positive impact, with their day-to-day operations, and, not having to come to the land office to submit their survey plans and not have to wait to see what the status of a review is, as well as, getting the internal staff excited about kind of removing some of the tedious tasks off their plate so they could focus on, more detailed business. And so I think it's an opportunity to get excitement and enthusiasm building, across your stakeholder network. And I would strongly, suggest that governments take advantage of that, rolling out something new, something exciting. So.
That's great, Jill. Yeah, I love it, and I've seen government organizations where they include key surveyors and beta testing and get their input and kind of give them ownership from a change management perspective, just to make sure that they're enticed and they find value and understand the reason for the change. And even we have helped them to develop like informational websites that talk a little bit about how things are changing and the value it provides. So it's a great resource for surveyors to go to and learn a little bit about why things are changing and how great it's going to be for them.
Yeah, and I think too, with Esri, they've got the opportunity to use Hub and story maps to even use that as a promotional mechanism to engage with the stakeholders and again build that foundational excitement about what's coming and why it's a good idea. So,
excellent, really good question. Next question, can the digital plan submission solution be phased in over time to reduce upfront cost?
Yeah, for sure. We look at phased approaches like often. From the MVP or minimum viable product perspective, you want to make sure you get this core foundation in place, which would be having the spec defined, whether it's going to be the default or having something that's a little more specific. Maybe we start the default and then in a later phase, we kind of configure it a bit depending on need. And then also when it comes to the validation and the online portal, those are some of the key pieces we like to see put in as that foundation. And then at a later phase, we can take a look at integration, workflows, and those processes, best practices, workflow manager, et cetera. And then of course down the line in another phase, you could take a look at distribution. But again, as I mentioned previously, some organizations want to go all in out of the gate, and others want to kind of start with just MVP, the core foundation, and then just kind of elect to kind of go through those later phases to kind of fill in any voids they may have.
Yeah, and I would just add, Matt, that as a government agency is looking to do a digital transformation or bring a modernization component forward, it's really important that they have a roadmap, a full view of where they're trying to get to, that they don't say, let's just do this bit and we'll see how it goes. It's important to have that vision and then ultimately have at least a general idea as to how they're going to meet that vision goal, right? And so, yes, start with what you're able to do, but don't lose sight of the goal that you're trying to get to, and have that as part of the strategy, because that will help not just with technology adoption, but budget planning and fund allocation and overall strategic goal meeting, right? Keep making those key performance indicators an important part of whatever approach is decided, with any kind of digital transformation. So
Great. Another question is, how did Alberta's Survey Plan Online Checker improve processing times and data quality?
Tremendously. Short answer, but of course, as you saw in the SPOC tell me here, the system really ensures that the CAD files that they're adhering to necessary layer specs, georeference accuracy, and they also have correctly annotated dimensions and things of that nature here. So really by identifying all the potential errors before registration, SPOC is helping the LTO reduce the amount of effort, the amount of time, the amount of money they're spending on these processes. Because again, the surveyors are self-helping by using these automated tools, and it really minimizes registration delays. So it's ready to go when they get it, they can do their work. And then just to add to that, I think it really enhances document security as well. It reduces the cost by preventing registration of erroneous plans. So you don't have error data going into your system, which can have a sort of cascading domino effect. But overall, SPOC really streamlines the approval process and improves the quality and reliability of the data for all the data consumers.
Yeah, just a quick comment from my side. I think a lot of our government clients are always facing challenges with data. Data is one of the most complicated components of a land administration environment, and any tools and processes and procedures that can be leveraged to bring, again, that standardization of the data, the security of the data, and kind of that integrated overall management approach is a win. And again, leveraging the MNC tools as well as the ArcGIS parcel fabric, which creates that parcel history and proves out that chain of title. These are important aspects when you're trying to secure property rights and bring that confidence, if you will, to the land transaction and to the overall land administration market. So yeah, I think super important to kind of keep in mind that anytime you can leverage a tool that enforces standards and drives consistency and brings security, it's a win.
Sounds great. Boy, we have a lot of interest here. Thank you everyone for your participation. We still have a few more questions. What is the most common mistake organizations make when starting a digital plan submission project?
Yeah, good question for sure. So one of the most common mistakes that we see is our organizations, and I think we kind of talked a little bit about this previously here, when they're starting a modernization project, specifically, of course, digital plan checking projects, they kind of maybe are not adequately planning to understand the specific requirements before implementation. So, this can sometimes lead to them adopting systems or processes that may not be in perfect alignment. So we're there to catch, of course, our clients and to help them navigate this, but those risks do occur here. So with that in mind, organizations should really just kind of take the time to thoroughly assess their current workflows, identify the key functionalities that they need, and engage with stakeholders just to ensure that it's going to be the chosen solution is going to be tailored in just the right way to meet their specific needs. Beyond that, I'd say that just kind of neglecting to allocate like sufficient resources to staff training and change management that can sometimes hinder user adoption and the overall success of the project. But again, we've been doing this for so many years, we sort of know exactly how to kind of navigate that with our clients. But that is what I'd say is one of the common problems.
Building on Matt's comments, I would say that as you're looking at implementing a new tool, a new technology, or an overall modernization program, I think taking into account all of the aspects, don't just look at the survey plan online checking aspect, but what are the broader maybe cadastral modernization functions that need to be considered, because this becomes part of that overall workflow that Matt was talking about. So I think that's a really significant thing to keep in mind is don't look at these solutions in isolation. Look at them broadly across the business, if you will, of the land administration office, and how do they incorporate the other required activities, if you will, of that office, that function. And so I think that's really key. And then Matt touched on it as well. The change management aspect is one of, I think, the key elements that's overlooked, right? I think everyone looks at change management from a business process. How do I change my workflow? But have you prepared your team to embrace and get excited about the changes that are coming? Do they understand why you're making this change? Have you really built that sense of ownership amongst the team? So I'll say it's the soft side of change management. Don't underestimate how important that is as well.
Great. Thank you for those answers. Next question, how do you see digital plan submission evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
We've been working on several digital plan submission initiatives in the background here. One successful project we had was looking at automated integration of approved data. So if you think back to that graphic I had showed about the surveyor submitting the data and going through the integration, it's really about taking the parcel plans, so the survey plans that come in, and actually automating the integration of that into the data set to kind of further help those teams keep pace, keep up with the workload, and work on other higher value initiatives within their governments. And then secondly, we're also working in the background. So the solutions we've done typically here are, per jurisdiction, per county, per province, per location here. But we're currently working in the background on sort of a SaaS type tool that's configurable to meet the needs for multiple jurisdictions. So it's configured to each organization's needs that way. So that would be sort of a SaaS type approach to something we're working on in the background as well. So that's kind of a couple of things we have for the future. We have a bit more of a roadmap than that, of course, but those are a couple of exciting things we're looking at.
And just one, observation that I suspect everyone has had is technology is moving so fast and change is beyond constant. I think it's just, going so quickly that it's, you never know what the new thing is that's going to come out. And I think that from the MNC Esri partnership perspective, with all of the GeoAI activity we have going on, all of the large language model, machine learning, these are the kinds of tools that are really going to transform how land administration functions, how it goes about the day-to-day transaction for the better. I think they're going to really improve, the speed, reliability, and accessibility that not only the government, who's the, if you will, the owner of the application, but their stakeholders, their engagement, and the ability for those stakeholders to consume data like they've never been able to before. So it's an exciting time to be sure. There's no shortage of new things rolling out all the time, but what a great opportunity to engage and embrace that kind of technology.
Thank you, everybody, for all of these fantastic questions. And thank you, Jill and Matt, for all of this wonderful insight. It's greatly appreciated. I would like to thank everybody who joined today's session of bringing efficiency to land administration via online survey plan submission tools. A big thank you to our presenters, Jill and Matt, for sharing all of this insight and expertise. If we didn't get to your questions during the session, we will be following up with you via email. So a recording of today's webinar will be sent directly to your inbox as well. And if you'd like to explore any more information about MNC's work with digital plan submission that also includes Alberta's SPOC platform, you're welcome to visit mncl.ca. And of course, explore on Esri's website, esri.com. Thank you again for being with us today, and we hope to see you in the future. Have a great day, evening, or wherever you are in the world.